It's The Game, G-Unit's West Coast artist. The Game was in Cedar Block Blood Gang. He was Dr. Dre's artist at the beginning, and Dre had him for a while, but couldn't really figure out where to take him creatively, making songs. The perception was that The Game, who was a great lyricist and a great rapper, but couldn't make great songs. Although signed to Dre, The Game was still in the streets and was shot 5 times in 2001, and actually ended up being in a coma, which he references in one of his songs, Dreams. But there was a big buzz for The Game before he came out, as there hadn't been a big West Coast artist really since the Death Row days, the mid-90s. And as much as he was a West Coast artist, he did have an East Coast flow when he rapped. But what happened was, The Game eventually joined G-Unit as a group. If you paid attention in early G-Unit videos, you could see him in many of them. He was in the Club video, he was in Young Buck's Stomp video, and in the G-Unit I Wanna Get to Know You video. All these cameos came before his own debut album came out. His debut album, The Documentary, came out January 18, 2005. It was a big success and sold 5 million albums. It had singles such as How We Do featuring 50 Cent, Hate It or Love It featuring 50 Cent, Dreams, Put You on the Game. While Game was having success with his debut album, there was friction in the G-Unit camp, really with just The Game and 50 Cent. Game was kind of taking 50 Cent's tactics of starting random beefs with rappers. He would have a few lines for Jay-Z, a few lines for Memphis Bleak, to name a few, but would weirdly kind of step back and say nah, he wasn't dissing them when the rapper was confronted in interviews. But one day he was performing and he dissed Jay-Z, and 50 didn't like it because he felt like Jay-Z could have ended Game's whole career just like that. So stuff like that was making a bit of friction between him and 50. I think also 50 wasn't happy that Game's album was put out before his, when 50 was ready. And 50 actually gave Game quite a few of his songs to help his record, because Game wasn't a strong songwriter like 50 was. In addition to that, The Game refused to diss some of 50's foes like Fat Joe and Jadakiss, which definitely did not go down well with 50. Well, it all came down to a head at the radio station where 50 was on the radio and he announced that The Game would no longer be in G-Unit. This caused The Game to bring it onto us to the radio station, where there was a confrontation and eventually guns were drawn. Someone from The Game's camp was shot. Though the person survived, this was the start of a long-winded beef that carries on to this day. Game went on to release a flurry of diss songs and mixtapes towards G-Unit, the most classic being 300 Bars, which in hip-hop I don't think we had ever seen anyone rap or hold 300 bars in one song. It was epic. The Game was so relentless, people say that he destroyed G-Unit fully on his own. I don't believe that. I think G-Unit had lost a bit of its stardust, particularly with the beef with the Locks as well. But Game definitely had a massive part because Game was very popular at that time. When it came to The Game coming out of his second album, it was all eyes was on him. A lot of people felt like Game couldn't make another album because 50 was really heavily involved in his first album. He wrote half the choruses on the album, and the ones that he didn't, R&B singers were on it. But on November 14, 2006, The Game released his sophomore album, The Doctor's Advocate. It had some of the hottest producers such as Scott Storch, Swiss Beats, will.i.am, and Kanye West on production. He had the epic song It's Okay, One Blood, Let's Ride, and Wouldn't Get Far featuring Kanye. For a lot of people, this is his best album, even better than the first one. It was a success. It had more of a West Coast sound, and it proved that Game could survive without 50 Cent writing his choruses. After The Doctor's Advocate, Game also released LAX in 2008, the Red Album in 2011, Jesus Peace in 2012, which I felt was a great album, the Documentary 2 in 2015, Documentary 2.5 in 2015 as well, 1992, 2016, Born to Rap 2019, and his latest album, Dramatic Heart vs. Mind, November 2022. Generally, his sales dropped quite dramatically from the first album, but everybody generally agrees that Game can definitely rap, but he just hasn't reached the heights of those G-Unit days. Although Game had parted ways from 50 Cent, he did carry on a lot of 50's tactics, such as starting up random beefs, even taking it to another level. The Game has had beefs with so many rappers, you kind of lose track on who he's been beefing with. He's had problems with Dirk, Razcast, Jay-Z, Meek Mill, Young Thug. It's kind of crazy. A lot of times he's even starting these beefs on behalf of other rappers that don't need the backing, like the Young Thug thing when he was trying to copy Lil Wayne's Carter albums with the Barter albums, or Dirk when he was having problems with Tiger. Other controversies the Game's been involved in: when he had a dating show in 2015 called He Got Game, where the winner, Priscilla, sued him, was meant to go on a date with Game, showed up to the venue, and there was no film crew, it's just Game, and apparently he was intoxicated and sexually assaulted her. He eventually was found guilty and was ordered to pay $7 million to her in a judgment. Game refused to pay the amount. The judge responded in 2020 by giving Priscilla ownership of Game's record label, so she would actually receive the royalties to any albums that he was going to put out at that point. Game obviously then decided to retire from hip-hop, but he eventually did come out with another album. Game has always been quite a complex character. Even with his last album, he put out a diss to Eminem. He'd already been on Drink Champ saying that Eminem wasn't as good as him, but we all saw through it that he was just trying to create a buzz for his album. The song called The Black Slim Shady came out, and it really tanked. Possibly one of the worst diss songs in hip-hop history, especially with all the talk behind it. And I think why people felt that was real disappointment, because Game can actually rap, so people maybe was even expecting something that was quite decent. But what is the Game's legacy? He's a rapper that really does divide opinions. From fighting 40 Glock to crying that hip-hop wasn't the same when he first came out as he expected it, to destroying G-Unit. Jimmy Iovine described it as breaking up the Beatles, which is a heck of a comparison. But Game's definitely known for his name dropping, beefing, and really clout chasing like a youngster when he's in his 40s. But overall, he's had a good career. Maybe just didn't maximize his potential. But what do you think about the Game's career? Do you think it's been a good one? Do you think it could have been better? Do you think he's an underrated rapper as well? Leave a comment below. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It's Fresh Hip Hop Opinion. Peace and love.